Oh wow. Oh boy. I was playing in a band in Chicago, and there was a booking agent, and his name was Frank Rand. I don't know if you guys know him. He was a CBS. But anyway, he called me up. I was living in Los Angeles, and asked me if I'd be interested in coming out to Chicago to play with some bands. So at that time in Los Angeles, it was pay to play, and so you can't really make any money that way. So in Chicago, it wasn't like that at all. I mean, I went there and I got into this band that was being booked by them, this agency, and we were getting paid, and it was just great, and playing all over the place, and went to Florida, all throughout the Midwest, and then this guy, Frank Rand, knew this gentleman named Barry Fay, who was a promoter from Denver, Colorado. And so he was one of the biggest rock promoters in the United States at the time, in the 70s and 80s. Him and Bill Graham sort of cut the United States into a pie, and Bill Graham had the Fillmore East and the Fillmore West, and Barry had the whole Midwest. And so he heard a tape of mine, Barry Fay, and he called me up and asked me if I'd be interested in coming to meet with him and possibly have him manage me. So I gave the band I was with about 2 weeks notice, and thank God I played with that band for about a year, because it gave me a lot of time on stage and playing and getting used to being there and just getting your chops up. So when he called me, I went to Colorado, and I met with him, and a couple of days later asked me if I'd be interested in doing a showcase for CBS Records. So I said, yeah. So he said, well, you got 2 weeks. And so in 2 weeks, I put a band together. I wrote 7 songs, and I rehearsed them, and the day came when all these people from the East Coast and West Coast of CBS, all the executives came to Colorado, and I did this showcase. And it happened to be snowing that day, and so we weren't sure if anybody was going to come, and at the last minute everybody showed up, and I did this showcase, and about 3 days later I was asked to come to Los Angeles and have a meeting with the executives at CBS. So I went to Los Angeles, had the meeting. They asked me if I'd be interested in playing with a band called Journey. And at that time, Journey was a band that did like 15, 11-minute songs. It was all jazz, rock, fusion band. So they wanted to put a lead singer into the situation, because at that time there were bands like Foreigner coming out. There was Boston. So all these record labels were looking for the next Boston and the next Foreigner. So they decided that they wanted to change the format. They were going to drop the band, and if they didn't get a lead singer. So I went up to San Francisco, and I was picked up at the airport by Herbie Herbert, the manager. He drove me to SIR Studios in San Francisco, and Journey had a big sound stage there. They were all set up. We talked for a while, had a little lunch, and then I went up on stage with them, and we sort of just jammed for about a good hour and a half. And there was great chemistry there. And I stayed with the band there, and I wrote Wheel in the Sky with Neil.
Great song.
And I wrote Anytime with Greg Raleigh. And I wrote Winds of March with Neil. And I wrote another song with Neil called All For You, which is on the Time Box album. And so we toured. We went. We did a tour of Texas. Our first tour was in Texas, and we were actually opening up for Judas. It was us, Judas Priest, and REO Speedwagon, which was an odd combo.
Interesting tour.
But it was we did that for a couple of shows, and then we ventured off into the rest of the United States. And I did about 39 shows with him, and I played Soldier Field with him, and that was like about 90,000 people there, and that was videotaped, and I actually have the video of it. I'm gonna look at it and see if we can.
We need to get that on YouTube.
Get it going and release that footage. And then there's footage of us that we played. I played with them in Hawaii. We did the Crater Festival for 2 days there. So after a while, we were doing a tour down on the West Coast, and we got to Fresno, and Herbie said, I only want you to do, one song or something like that. And I couldn't understand why that would happen. And so it was his way of saying, we're gonna nudge you out. And so while I was with the band all this time, Steve Perry was actually on the road with us, disguised as a cousin. So for a couple of gigs. So that was kind of strange. I didn't know that till way later on. But during that time, CBS had this A&R guy that had been putting in a lot of money into Steve Perry's demos, and so Steve had made these demos, and then the A&R guy was calling up Herbie saying, "Hey, you got to have this guy. I want you to put this guy in your band, and if you do, I'll give you I'll get you more money, producer, get you airtime and all that." So it was sort of like The Godfather. I'll make you an offer you can't refuse. So that's what happened. So I was released. I left, and Steve took my place. And but the fortunate part on it for me is they did 3 of my songs on one of the biggest records they ever did, and I still am happy receiving my
and your Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and we got the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I participated in the Hollywood Walk of Fame Star, and so everybody thinks that we had a bad relationship, but we never had a bad relationship. I still speak to them. I see them every time they come into town. I still talk to Ross all the time. So it's a good family, and it's just part of what happened, and their history and my history, and because of it all, I'm here speaking to you guys, and I really appreciate being here with you guys.
Thank you for being here.
Because I wouldn't be here without you. So thank you. Love you guys.
Thank you. Great story.